Ich heiße Red from This Building Matters, and in this video we're going to check out the Deutsches Haus, which is one of the more magnificent buildings on the east side, though it's been abandoned for about 10 years. I put out videos like this every Friday, so please subscribe to the channel if you haven't. Let's check it out. In the early 1800s, the first significant wave of German immigrants arrived in Detroit. By the early 1900s, there were numerous German settlements across the city's east side. In 1926, construction began on a German ethnic hall on Mack Avenue between Maxwell and Seminole. Louis Camper designed it, and it featured a 1,600-seat auditorium, classrooms and offices, and a bowling alley. First and foremost, the Deutsches Haus was a social hall, and Germans knew how to party. In December 1929, the hall manager was fined $1,500 for violating prohibition laws. When the structure was raided, beer and liquor were confiscated, and the manager pretended to be a chef in the kitchen. Due to its large auditorium, the hall was home to political and community events over the years, too. Although the Deutsches Haus was German, it doesn't appear that they discriminated against any kind of politician. In addition to partying and political and community events, sports were commonplace here. On January 10, 1934, Detroit amateur wrestlers competed for the city championship, and boxing tournaments were common here. In the 1930s, the hall's New Year's Eve event had become a big deal. For $3.50 per person, you had a ticket to the All-Star Floor Show, party favors, noisemakers, souvenirs, a 6-course meal featuring squab chicken or filet mignon, and music by Don Rosso. At some point in 1940, the hall became known as the Maxwell Casino. Despite the name change, the structure was still used for sports, community events, and political happenings. Around 1943, the Catholic Youth Organization, or CYO Community Center, began utilizing the space. I'm unsure whether they rented or owned it, however, it was a significant player for the neighborhood families and kids of all ages. In November 1945, the hall hosted the state table tennis meet. 200 of the best players in the Midwest were set to face off against one another at the Catholic Youth Organization Community Center in what was billed as the largest state tournament in the country. On the fourth Friday of Lent, 1963, Greater Macedonia Baptist Church's building at 1501 St. Aubin was demolished in the name of urban renewal. The neighborhood, which had a significant black population, had already been dramatically changed by the construction of the highways, but the widening of St. Aubin and Lafayette would continue to displace it. Greater Macedonia Baptist Church's congregation moved to a larger space at 8200 Mack, the former Deutsches Haus, pictured here. Over the years, numerous famous city officials, reverends, and civil rights activists spoke at the church. Coretta Scott King was the keynote speaker at the church's Women's Day service on May 30, 1965. On August 22, 1965, Dr. Martin Luther King Sr. was a guest speaker at the church. 791 days prior, his son had led 125,000 people down Woodward Avenue alongside Reverends Clarence L. Franklin and Albert Clegg, Detroit Mayor Jerome Kavanaugh, UAW President Walter Reuther, Michigan Governor George Romney, and others to Cobo Hall, where he would give his first iteration of the now famous I Have a Dream speech. Dr. Martin Luther King Sr. would speak here again in January 1969, less than a year after his son was shot in Memphis. In 1974, the location was chosen as a food and friendship site. The program provided a hot meal 5 days a week to more than 1,700 elderly Detroiters. It wasn't a soup kitchen, but offered meals and conversation to seniors who might otherwise be in isolation. In March 1988, Reverend Jesse Jackson stopped at the church to host a rally during his presidential run. By the time voting came around, Jackson was Dukakis' only opponent in the Democratic Party, and Dukakis won by a landslide. In the late 1990s, things began to slow down. Detroit was facing hardships never seen before, and many churches and neighborhood organizations began to close their doors. Still, Greater Macedonia Baptist Church pushed on. I'm not confident when the congregation moved out of the space, but the last filed paperwork is from 2013, and the nonprofit was dissolved in 2016. For nearly a decade, the property sat empty. In recent months, work has been ongoing in the former Deutsches Haus, though there's no indication of what plans have been laid for the structure. Located on one of Detroit's busiest thoroughfares, and in Indian Village, one of Detroit's most lavish neighborhoods, redevelopment here into something the community can use is a no-brainer. Still, the project's size and scope limit it to larger developers. If you had the cash, what would you do with this building? If you enjoyed this, please throw a like on the video, drop a comment down below, and subscribe to the channel for a new video every Friday. If you want to support the channel, there's 2 links down in the description, one to buy a t-shirt and one to get a print from my print store. Until next time, this building matters.